Hello, this is part 16 of our comparative Bible study on the beginning of Jesus Galilean Ministry. During this part, we would like to discuss a man with palsy being presented to Jesus in the city of Capernaum. Overall, this is our 56th New Testament Bible study. Here in a moment, I'd like to get started comparing these highlighted verses. Before we do that, however, I'd like to do a brief recap on which city Jesus is currently in when this event occurs, and to share a few thoughts on some of the people who were in attendance. During the last Bible study, we discussed the phrase his own city in Matthew chapter 9, verse 1, and Bible verses that appeared to indicate that his own city was Capernaum, matching up with the Gospel of Mark. And it's possible the accounts in Matthew, Mark, and Luke are three accounts of the same event, namely Jesus healing a man with palsy in the city of Capernaum. After that discussion, we concluded with reading the introduction to the account in the Gospel of Luke. Something that seems interesting here is that there were Pharisees and doctors of the law sitting by, which were come out of every town of Galilee and Judea and Jerusalem. This is the first time we've spoken of the Pharisees in a while. We had discussed them in previous Bible studies, for example, New Testament Bible studies 21 and 31. When John the Baptist had encountered the Pharisees about the time he baptized the Lord Jesus, and when the Lord Jesus spoke to Nicodemus, a Pharisee, while attending the Passover feast. Then following that Passover feast, Jesus returned into Galilee after he knew the Pharisees had heard he was making more disciples than John. Although members of the sect of the Pharisees may have been around this whole time, this is the first time since Jesus returned into Galilee that we're specifically told of him interacting with the Pharisees. Could it have been that the scribes and Pharisees had heard of things that Jesus was preaching concerning them during his Galilean ministry? For example, in the Sermon on the Mount, which Jesus could have already preached at this point, he stated, "For I say unto you, that except your righteousness shall exceed the righteousness of the scribes and Pharisees, ye shall in no case enter into the kingdom of heaven." As a quick side note, although I'm pointing these references out concerning Pharisees, please keep in mind that it is possible for a Pharisee to be saved. In the scriptures, there does appear to be examples of Jesus rebuking the Pharisees, but recall that we're told in the scriptures also, "For whom the Lord loveth, he chasteneth." Now, we don't know everyone who would come to the Lord Jesus, but one significant example of a Pharisee who came to the Lord Jesus in a major way is the Apostle Paul. So even though the Pharisees may be discussed in a pretty unfavorable way at times, it is possible for even a Pharisee to be converted and to come to the Lord Jesus. Moving back to our current Bible study. Notice also the location where these Pharisees and doctors of the law were coming from. So not only were these Pharisees and doctors of the law coming from the towns of Galilee, which is in northern Israel, where they're located in the city of Capernaum, they were also coming from Judea and Jerusalem, which is in southern Israel. Not to mention, to get to Capernaum, which is in Galilee, from Judea and Jerusalem, these Pharisees and doctors of the law would have had to have either traveled through or around the region of Samaria, which is in central Israel. My understanding is that this is a trip that is more likely to be measured in days than hours, especially if they were traveling by foot back then. So why would these Pharisees and doctors of the law be coming all the way from Judea and Jerusalem to Capernaum? Could one of the reasons be that maybe they're doing to Jesus as they did to John the Baptist? Regarding John the Baptist, as you may recall in John chapter 1, the Jews sent priests and Levites from Jerusalem to ask him, "Who art thou?" And a little bit later we were told, "They which were sent were of the Pharisees." Could it be that these Pharisees and doctors of the law were dispatched to Jesus' own city to find him there in Capernaum? Could they have been concerned about his rising popularity as they were with John the Baptist? Let's move on to the main text. Remembering that we were just told that these Pharisees and doctors of the law were sitting by as Jesus was teaching. Then in the Gospel of Matthew we're told, "And behold, they brought to him a man sick of the palsy, lying on a bed." As you've probably noticed, this part in the account in the Gospel of Matthew is much shorter than comparable parts in the Gospels of Mark and Luke. As noted in the last Bible study, I've highlighted information in gold in both the accounts of Mark and Luke, which is not present in the account in the Gospel of Matthew. Like the Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Mark states, "And they come unto him, bringing one sick of the palsy." And also like the Gospel of Matthew, the Gospel of Mark also notes that the man was lying on a bed, the bed wherein the sick of the palsy lay. After the Gospel of Luke states, "And the power of the Lord was present to heal them," it goes on to tell us, similar to the Gospels of Matthew and Mark, "And behold, men brought in a bed a man which was taken with a palsy." But the Gospels of Luke and Mark give us additional information that reveal to us that it was not just as easy as bringing the man in to see Jesus. In fact, it was apparently quite difficult. The Gospel of Mark states, "And straightway many were gathered together, insomuch that there was no room to receive them, no, not so much as about the door." Here the Gospel of Mark gives us a general statement about what is going on. Why are they all crowded together? What are they there to hear? As the Gospel of Luke told us that Jesus was teaching, the Gospel of Mark also states, "And he preached the word unto them." Concerning the men who were bringing the man with palsy, we're told in the Gospel of Mark, "which was born of four," which appears to be four people carrying him, bringing him on a bed. Concerning these men, the Gospel of Luke tells us what they were trying to do. "And they sought means to bring him in, and to lay him before him." So they're trying to bring him in before Jesus. Both the Gospels of Mark and Luke then tell us why they are not able to. The Gospel of Mark states, "And when they could not come nigh unto him for the press," the Gospel of Luke likewise states, "And when they could not find but what way they might bring him in, because of the multitude." The Gospel of Luke goes on to tell us how they got around this. There it states, "They went upon the housetop, and let him down through the tiling, with his couch, into the midst before Jesus." The Gospel of Mark states likewise, but gives additional information on the efforts they had to take. There we read, "They uncovered the roof where he was, and when they had broken it up, they let down the bed." So we've just completed reading the sections highlighted in gold. Although the two accounts aren't identical, by reading them together we could come away with a more complete picture of what had happened. Now let's see how the Lord Jesus responded. The Gospels of Mark and Luke record similar responses. "When Jesus saw their faith, he said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, thy sins be forgiven thee." And again, "And when he saw their faith, he said unto him, Man, thy sins are forgiven thee." The Gospel of Matthew gives us an additional comforting statement by the Lord Jesus. "Be of good cheer." It reads, "And Jesus, seeing their faith, said unto the sick of the palsy, Son, be of good cheer, thy sins be forgiven thee." In New Testament Bible Study 53, we discuss possible explanations for variations like this. So how did the Pharisees and those with them respond to all this? Moving to the next verses. In Luke we read, "And the scribes and the Pharisees began to reason, saying, Who is this which speaketh blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God alone?" The Gospel of Mark states similar. "But there were certain of the scribes sitting there, and reasoning in their hearts, Why doth this man thus speak blasphemies? Who can forgive sins but God only?" Matthew is a little briefer. "And behold, certain of the scribes said within themselves, This man blasphemeth." So it appears they found fault. I believe the Lord Jesus anticipated all this and had a purpose for it. Let's stop here for now. Lord willing, maybe we'll have another Bible study in the future. If I get to share anything good, it's a blessing from God. Goodbye.